Hi, I'm Amanda Drews for A Greener Demeanor, and today we're going to talk about to-go containers and the waste that comes from carry-out from restaurants. I guess this is my favorite type of waste because it means I A, didn't have to cook, and B, I got a delicious meal. And also because during the pandemic, we really need to support our local restaurants. We got a lot of takeout this year. These are the things that I wanted to save to be able to show you guys and how to deal with it when we're done with our meal. I called 224 restaurants in Dakota County alone to see what they had as far as their carry-out containers and the items that they use for takeout food. 25 of those had potentially compostable or recyclable cardboard that they knew to be recyclable or compostable. 39 of them told me that they just had Styrofoam only. 31 of them had plastic. Usually that meant it was like the black bottoms with the clear tops. That was the normal response for the plastic. And then the rest were kind of a mix of either me not getting through on the line. Some of them were actually closed, which was really sad. And some of them had language barriers that they weren't really understanding what I was asking. And others were just told me that they didn't have time to answer my questions at all, even though I definitely tried to call at these really, really slow times. We're gonna go through this and sort it out and figure out which ones are compostable, recyclable, and which ones go straight into the trash. All right, we've got all the things sorted out. They're all around me here. Mira is like, what are you doing, Mom? But I just wanted to say thank you to the restaurant owners for helping me out, the ones that did help me out, because I understand that either talking about the products that they have can be sensitive. I know one guy was disgusted by the fact that they use Styrofoam only for their takeout, and others were just really like kind of butted heads when I asked about what they had. So I know it can be a sensitive thing, but thank you to the owners that did help me out. I did have some people that were really excited about sharing the containers that they had with me because they're like, oh yeah, ours are recyclable, and they would bring me a Styrofoam container. So I think that just kind of points out that we need to know which things go in recycling, and if you do work somewhere, what kind of product are you giving your customers? And if you are the ones giving those out and you do have something that can be composted locally or recycled easily, then tell your clients that on your restaurant or on your menu or on your website that you do use those things, because people do want to use less waste and do good by the waste that they do have and generate. I had a conversation with one of the guys at Giuseppe's in Rosemount, this really good little tiny Italian place. He was asking me what can he do better, so we had a conversation about which ones he can order in the future, because he waved me in and showed me this big pile of containers that he had just ordered, like stacks and stacks. He's like, what can I do in the future to make it better? So that was awesome. Let's start out with those things that you know are going to go into the trash. If you're thinking about those rules of recycling, you're going to be looking for that recycling identification code. So that's the little, what we know historically as like the recycling symbol. That's going to be the little arrow circle with the number inside of it. You're looking for that resin identification code, and remember that doesn't mean that it's recyclable, it tells you what the product is made out of. So we around here want to recycle 1s, 3s, and 5s, and that tells us that yes, this will be able to be recycled curbside. On Styrofoam, you're going to be looking at that and probably see number 6 on it. So we don't recycle Styrofoam around here. I know there's emerging technology that might allow for some Styrofoam recycling in certain areas, but for the most part, Styrofoam is just going to go into your trash and end up in a landfill. So we have a plastic lid that doesn't say, oh, yep, it's really tiny. It has number 5 on it. So that one can go into your curbside recycling. We're going to put that into curbside recycling. The cup part is just going to go straight into the trash. If you're a sushi lover, a lot of times those will come in these little tiny Decorative with the green grass, that's trash. The green grass little decorations. We have the little doilies, also trash. That kind of soaks up some of the grease, I think. And then this one is also a number 6. That's trash. If it were a number 5, it's black plastic, so that would still go in the trash because there's not really a market for black plastic around here. And then the lid is also number 6, which surprised me. I thought that this clear lid would be a 5, but apparently those can be 6s too. So those are all in the trash as well. Here's what your styrofoam containers typically look like the clamshell opening ones. Trash. If you're getting food from a lot of Asian restaurants, a lot of times they'll have those traditional carry-out containers. If there's a waxy covering on the inside, that can't be recycled, so that's just going to be trash. And as much as I love Lianchin, this is probably just a trash item. Our Caribou cup, it looks like the sleeve comes off, and on it says made from 62% recycled material with 39% post-consumer fiber. So look for those things too. See which things are buying from reused fibers to get those recycled materials into that new product. And just be aware that when you see something that says 50% less plastic or up to 50% recycled materials, it might not be that 50%, it says up to. So it could be that whole range down below. So just something to watch out. So this could probably be composted, this one. Let's see what the cup says. It doesn't say anything, so I'm gonna assume that that's trash. If it's not telling me right on there, you would think because it's coffee and it has to contain that really hot liquid, then it's gonna have that waxy coating on the inside. We're gonna put that one in the trash, and we have a number 6 top on the coffee cup, so the rest of that is trash. I've never run into a restaurant that uses glass for their carry-out stuff, but let's say you did, or maybe you have a beer growler, which usually are returned to that brewery itself. That's going to definitely be something that's recycled. Just check that your recycling takes that certain colored glass. Aluminum foil. I'm seeing a lot of these in the Mexican restaurants. This one is from El Azteca, which has the best, hands down, cheese dip in the whole world, and their staff is super friendly. They have these containers. These are big enough to be recycled. Sometimes if you're thinking about those rules of recycling, as far as you can only recycle things bigger than a Post-it note so that they don't get lost in that recycling machinery. Like a yogurt lid is too small to recycle, made out of foil, but you save them up until you get a bigger one. So you might put this in your home recycling system for your aluminum foil and use that to ball up into at least a 3-inch diameter ball. These are going to be big enough, so these can both go in your curbside recycling. We have some recyclable paper products. This one is from Doolittle's in Egan, Mason Jar in Egan, and Porter Creek in Burnsville. They all have the same container. This is the BioPlus Terra 2 number 8, green product certified, made from 100% recycled paper, 90% post-consumer content. So that's a really great piece of info on the back there. It's made in North America from US and Canadian materials, and it says compostable. It does have a little website that you can go to. I didn't get much out of that website when I went to it. I didn't find this company listed on the BPI website. However, when I dug into it a little bit further, these containers are B&Q certified compostable, and that's a Canadian certification. And it's not to say that they're any better or worse than BPI, which is the Biodegradable Products Institute, and that's what our composting site around here uses. So it's not to say it's any worse, but it's just different from what ours has the standards for. So it is compostable in certain sites, but it might not be in other ones. So that's why you have to check with your local composting facility to see which standards they're looking for on the products that you're composting. I also think that the restaurants, the composting facility, and like the city and the county need to work together a little bit more to make sure it's clear, like, oh, if you're in this area, make sure you can compost it in this area too. Because if you have something that's compostable, people are going to put it in the compost, or if it says it's compostable on there, people are going to put it in the compost, maybe not knowing that their composting facility doesn't accept that specific standard. And that's just what I think. I don't know. Nobody ever listens to me anyways, so I'm just spewing nonsense on here. But just an idea. Maybe there's something that they could put in the window of the restaurant or on the menu or online to tell people, like, yes, if you live in Dakota County, you can compost this at a Dakota County facility. I know it's really frustrating for the compost facility to see people wanting to do good, but then they're putting the wrong products in that compost. There are things that list ASTM standards, so that is a company that kind of sets standards for different products that we buy. There's 2 standards that BPI uses for ASTM standards when they certify their products. Some of these things have listed like ASTM 6868 certified, but just because they have that one standard doesn't mean that's applicable to the entire product as a whole. So there might be components of that that satisfies that standard, but as a whole, you can't recycle that entire product. Does that make sense? That's what the guy at our composting place told me. And I was like, thank you so much, because I've been searching for this answer for hours, and he said it in like one sentence. So thank you. Another thing about BPI certification is that's going to cost the company thousands and thousands of dollars every year to keep their certification and accreditation through them. So that can be a barrier for a lot of new companies that might have a lot of good to do, but don't want to spend thousands of dollars a year on that. So that's also another thing to consider, is that there may be companies out there that could meet that standard, but aren't yet because it is expensive. So these are maybe not compostable around where I live, but it is recyclable. So we can put that one in the recycling curbside. Same thing with Rack Shack in Eagan, home of the delicious hobo. It's like a potato and cheese and brisket and pulled pork and coleslaw and mac and cheese and beans all lumped into one pile of deliciousness. One of my favorites. They use all recyclable containers for their food too, and then there's usually a liner in there. Just remember that if it has any food residue on it, that is not recyclable. So the liners really help with that. Famous Dave's has cardboard boxes that are recyclable, and they're also listed as having the Sustainable Forestry Initiative on there, so that those materials used for this are gathered sustainably. That goes in recycling. Max Fish and Chips, they gave us our to-go containers in a recyclable paper bag, so you can look out for that too, the bags that your takeout comes in itself. And I know that Dominic's in Eagan had a recyclable bag, and also Aroma in Bloomington, which is the best Indian food I've ever had. They had paper bags for their to-go boxes to fit in. So that goes in curbside recycling, just kind of flatten it down like that. If your bags are coming in plastic bags, remember these do not go in curbside recycling, but you can drop them off at a special plastics drop-off site. So if they have something that can bend or pull both ways, 2 different directions, you can poke your finger through it, that is probably something that can go in those special plastics drop-off sites. So recycling, but in a special place. Around here we have Lunds and Byerly's, Cub Foods, Target, Walmart, Lowe's. Those are the types of places that we drop off our special plastics drop-off recycling. What is this? Where's this from? Oh, okay. Olivia's Organic Cafe in Burnsville. They have BPI certified compostable containers, and this company is actually a B Corp company, so that's good. That's from Eco Products, so that can go in our composting site, whether there's food residue on it or not. It can go in there. Pizza boxes, you want to make sure that if you have food residue, that portion goes to composting. If it doesn't have food residue, well, this one does. That all just goes to composting. Let's check this one out. Okay, so this one has a clean top and a dirty bottom. So this stuff can go to the composting site, the dirty part, and then the clean part you can rip it off and send that to the recycling to get reused into something else. So this one is like a mix of things. I'll just put that there. Gen Pack 2. So this is one that meets an ASTM 6868 standard. This is from Jensen's Cafe in Burnsville. The Sabre company is listed on the BPI site. So it's all sorts of hunting that I had to do for this one, because it doesn't say anything on there like this is compostable or this is recyclable. And I know on BPI's website they just put, as of September 2020, that they want to have some more standards for relabeling things and identifying things as compostable. So kind of just to start the conversation about, okay, we need to make this clear that it's compostable. Otherwise, restaurants are going to be spending that extra money on things that they think are better for the planet, and they might not be. So they should have that information that they can pass on to their customers. Because when you have a restaurant that is trying to do good and spending extra money, because these containers are more money, and I get it that restaurants might not be able to afford that right now. But if they're spending the extra money on trying to do good, then let's make it obvious to your consumer that this is compostable and how to get rid of it. The other thing that this one has was a link on their website to find a composter near you. So I went on there, put in my zip code, and it showed me right where there was our county composting. So that's really helpful because that tells you what to do with it. So I'm proud of you for that one, company. We have a cup from Blue Nose Coffee in, I believe, Farmington, and they use the Renewables company that actually is in Maple Grove, Minnesota, I believe. So this one has compostable all over it, and then the lid has a number 5 recyclable lid. So that one can go in curbside recycling. This one can go in compost. This one came from that same Renewables company as that coffee cup, and these were in the school lunches from this year, which I also made a thing on how to recycle the items in the school lunches that they were giving out. And they're listed on the BPI website, so that is compostable. This cup from Lotus Leaf in Eden Prairie, it's eco-choice, BPI certified, so that can go in the composting too. It has, I mean, this is all sorts of marketing genius here. It has people literally hugging trees all around the edge of it. It says eco-choice, compostable, and biodegradable. But the problem with being biodegradable, if you see something that's not compostable but it says biodegradable, some of the issues with that are when they get thrown in the landfill and they're breaking down with oxygen. That's okay, but according to the EPA, it's less than a year when those conditions in that landfill, kind of things piling up and up and up, when those conditions are anaerobic, so that's without oxygen. And when things are breaking down anaerobically, they release methane. And that can be even worse than carbon dioxide as far as greenhouse gases are concerned. So those biodegradable things do pose a problem when they end up in a landfill. When you're thinking about these things though, you have to kind of compare the risks. And if it's going into a landfill and ending up there and biodegrading fast enough to not cause any harm, or if it's going to be slower and biodegrade in those anaerobic conditions, or is it just gonna like blow into the ocean? So this could be depending on where you live, how good your haulers are at getting trash into where it belongs. But you do have to think about those biodegradable things as far as ocean trash goes. Are they going to just be floating around in the ocean? Sea turtles are going to be thinking they're tasty jellyfish to eat and consuming them, or getting into whales or other sea life? Or are they going to end up just being around but breaking down into something like this one's made out of tapioca starch, I was told. It's going to break down into things that aren't microplastics. And that would be better if they were just hanging out in the environment. But you kind of have to talk about those different pros and cons on what's going to happen to your trash. So I don't have an answer on what's better, but I don't think that we can keep relying on plastic to be our containers. So I definitely am supportive of those new technologies and new things coming out, but we have to know where to put those things and what happens to them when we put them there. Egan Public Arms, they have delicious salads, by the way. And they have one that has most of their products on that company's websites have BPI on the products. This is Monogram Cleaning and Disposables. It is a USDA certified bio-based product, but it doesn't really say if it can go in the compost or not. So I'm still unsure on that. And that's kind of where that labeling comes in for those products. I reuse these soup containers a lot. So a lot of times, like when we get wonton soup, they'll come in a soup container like this. And these are number 5 plastics. They're not black, so you can put these curbside. But we use these for so many things around the house, whether my kids putting Legos inside of them, or we're using them to trade food back and forth between families at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. So you can reuse these, but also these can go in your curbside recycling. This one is a number 7. It's PLA. So it says it's a compostable lid, but it doesn't have anything else on it. So this one I probably would throw in the trash, just because I don't know if our organics hauler could take this. Number 1 plastic. 1s are the best plastics to recycle, and 2s then those clear and white 5s. So this is a good one to recycle. Let's look at some of the smaller things that we get with our carry-out food. Receipts, those have BPA in the printing, so you're definitely going to want to put those in the trash. You cannot recycle receipts. The menus, so that you can order from them again, those can go in recycling, like your curbside recycling with your paper. Tiny little sauce containers. These are smaller than a Post-it note. Yeah, smaller than a Post-it note. And so these probably would just fall through in the machinery that they use to sort the recycling. So this is just trash because it's not big enough. Bamboo, I still have to find out if we can compost the bamboo stuff. Chopsticks, same thing. Napkins, if they are white, you're gonna put those in your trash. If they are brown, those can go into composting. And then we have the plastic bags that your little silverware napkin kit comes in, which help keep things sterile. So that's great. I actually appreciate having a sterile set of silverware to use if I do need them. But you can also ask a lot of times, especially if you're calling, but a lot of times if you're online ordering, you can put a little note in there that says, please no silverware. Or sometimes they have a check mark on there that you can check that box. So get a little to-go kit for your car, or just make sure that you're using your silverware at home when you're getting your takeout. So those are gonna be trash, all the forks and spoons, unless they're BPI certified. Otherwise they're just trash. And then also little moist towelette packets, or ketchup, or hot sauce, or soy sauce. Those are all going to go in your trash. And straws, maybe we should just stop using straws for the most part, but there are times that we do need them, or certain people do need them. I understand that. But try and get one of those reusable straws if you do think you need a straw. This one is made out of paper, so that's just gonna go right into my backyard compost. But let's just try and stop using the straws. If you have a local restaurant in your town, or you own one, give them a shout out down below if they use something that is recyclable or compostable. If you're one of the owners of these restaurants and you're like, that is not what I use something better than this, or I didn't mention you, give me a shout out too in the comments so that we can give you some credit for what you are doing for your business and for the planet. When you're looking at the choices for what your local restaurants use, also keep in mind that they have to take into consideration the types of foods that are going in those containers, and some of them may not be good for some of those recyclable or compostable items to send home with people in. And also, let's just keep in mind that a lot of our restaurants are struggling right now because of the pandemic. So give them a break if they're not using the more expensive containers for their food item. Let's just support them and get them back on their feet. If you found the information in this video helpful, send me a thumbs up to show me you liked it. If you want to get more information on how to live a more sustainable life, please subscribe to our channel and hit that bell button so you don't miss any of our videos that come out. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.